Hi, it's back to school time and you're trying to figure out what do I need in order to start my school year without spending too much money. So I just gathered up a few things that most kids would need if they're still attending secondary school. When you're off to college, it's a whole different game there of equipment that you're going to be using. But still in this day and age, notebooks are an excellent thing to have. I highly recommend this style because they hold up better over time, unless you're throwing them into your locker repeatedly, then that might jar them apart. But it usually can be fixed with duct tape. But I find if you get different colors, they could represent the different subjects that you have. And if you keep them from one year to the next, which I highly recommend with standardized testing and possibly reviewing for these state tests that they seem to be coming out with more and more. Let's say every year you use the red one for science. So 2-3 years in a row before you get that standardized test, you have your 3 notebooks from science class. Same thing if you use the yellow for math class, and then 3 years in a row you have the yellow for your math notes. So I like these because you can keep them according to subject. Personally, as a science teacher, I recommend for my students to get 2 of these notebooks. I definitely use one entire notebook for the year, and oftentimes 3/4 of the way through the year they're going into their second notebook for my class. But then I try to teach how to take notes from a nonfiction book, and therefore it's a skill that I'm trying to develop with my students, and so they use the notebook heavily in my class. The other thing that I require the kids to use are flashcards. And you're going to see I have 2 different types here. I have the plain ones, and if you can get these at a bulk store, whether it be Costco or Walmart or Sam's Club or any of those, and you can get 500 of them for a school year, then you're set. They're for whatever subject: history report, English research papers, science, vocabulary words, a language that you might be wanting to have flashcards on. Then you can use these throughout the year. You don't have to have them all in your locker. You can just need a bunch of them in there so that they're at the ready anytime you need them. I do recommend maybe colored cards for those students who are doing research papers. And you might have yellow for source number 1, and then another color for source number 2, and that you take all your notes on those colored cards, and then you know exactly what source they came from. You might want to get a holder for it. This costs $1 at Target. Or you could use a Ziploc bag or rubber bands. Anything to keep them together so that they don't end up in the hall if you accidentally get. The third thing that I would suggest is your basic supplies. I think every student should have a box of pencils. This would probably, if your child loses their pencil all the time, you might want to get a couple of these so that when he runs out, he can put another box in their locker. The other thing would be a set of pens. These happen to be erasable ones, but you could get any kind in case a teacher requires that they write their notes or their final paper in ink. And then finally, for my kids, I recommend that they get these highlighters. Any kind would do, but I suggest the highlighters because once I have them take notes, I go over it in class and I ask them to highlight or underline key words, key phrases, so that they know that that might be something that's on a test or a midterm. So I think highlighters are an important aspect of a classroom. If they wanted to keep all those supplies in like a little box of some sort so that it's neatly in their locker for ready access between classes, that might be something that they would prefer. Finally, on an organizational note, especially in middle school and high schools, they have lockers, but there's only just one shelving unit, especially in the half locker sizes. And so if you were to have one of these foldable racks, and there are different brands and varieties. There are some that are even narrower than this, depending on the width of your locker. I saw one that raises up 12 inches, and it's actually stackable. You can put a second one on top of that, so it gives you 2 shelving units within a locker. So you've just doubled or tripled your storage space to be neater, so that you could have books on one shelf, you could have notebooks on another shelf, that sort of thing, or a binder on another shelf, or gym clothes. I know more girls than guys like to have the little kind of mirror so they can just check to make sure everything's hunky-dory before they go on to the next class. So this one was $9. Again, this one was at Target. And I just recommend it as a way to keep yourself organized. And those are just the essentials that you might need. The last item would be the calculator. For math class, if the school sends you a letter, or your teacher sends you a letter at the beginning of the year requesting a specific brand of calculator, then it might be wise to try to get that one, because any of the instructions and that sort of thing might be geared towards that specific brand of calculator. I know in elementary school, basically all you would need is your basic functions. In secondary, middle school, or junior high, when you're taking pre-algebra, algebra, all you need is the type of calculator that has the scientific functions on it. So that might be anywhere from $10 to $12, depending on which store you get it from. Only if you're in an advanced math class where you are needing a graphing calculator, they can run upwards of $100 or more. And so I would wait until you actually start the class so that you know very specifically what kind of calculator that teacher would require before you invest that kind of money. And if you spend a lot of money ahead of time, I would keep your receipt and hold on to it until you know for sure that you need all of these items. Maybe you might find that you don't need them, and you could return them back to the store that you got them from. So I hope you're ready without spending too much money for school, and good luck.